What if everything you know about civilization began with a mother's broken heart? Picture this. The ancient world stands on the brink of transformation, and a grieving goddess holds the key to humanity's survival. In the sun-drenched hills of ancient Greece, where olive trees whispered secrets to the Mediterranean winds, people lived as wanderers and hunters. They gathered wild berries, hunted animals, and survived on nature's unpredictable gifts. But the gods had a different plan for humanity, one that would emerge from the depths of divine sorrow. Meet Demeter, the goddess of harvest and fertility, whose very name means Earth Mother. She's not just another deity in the Greek pantheon. Demeter controls the Earth's abundance, the cycles of growth and decay, and the mysterious force that makes seeds burst into life. Her golden hair flows like ripened wheat, and her touch can make barren soil bloom with incredible abundance. But Demeter's story begins with heartbreak that would reshape the world forever. Her beloved daughter Persephone, radiant as spring itself, was picking flowers in a meadow when the earth suddenly split open. Hades, god of the underworld, emerged in his dark chariot and dragged the screaming girl into his shadowy realm. The earth sealed itself, leaving no trace of the abduction. Demeter's anguish shook the very foundations of the world. She abandoned Mount Olympus and wandered the earth disguised as an old woman, searching desperately for her lost child. Her grief was so profound that she withdrew her divine power from the earth. Crops withered and died. Trees bore no fruit. Seeds refused to sprout. The world faced its first great famine. Humans didn't understand what was happening. They watched helplessly as their food sources disappeared. Children cried from hunger. Communities faced extinction. The very survival of humanity hung in the balance, all because a mother couldn't find her daughter. For 9 long months, Demeter searched every corner of the earth. She questioned every river, every mountain, every creature she encountered. Finally, the sun god Helios, who sees everything from his position in the sky, revealed the truth. Hades had taken Persephone to be his queen in the underworld, and Zeus himself had approved the match. Demeter's grief transformed into righteous fury. She refused to restore fertility to the earth until her daughter returned. The standoff between the gods reached a critical point when Zeus realized that if humans died out, there would be no one left to worship the gods or offer sacrifices. Zeus dispatched Hermes to negotiate with Hades. The messenger god descended into the underworld and convinced Hades to release Persephone. But there was a catch. Persephone had eaten pomegranate seeds in the underworld, binding her to that realm for part of each year. She would spend 4 months with Hades as queen of the dead and 8 months with her mother in the world above. When Persephone emerged from the underworld, Demeter's joy knew no bounds. Mother and daughter embraced, and immediately the earth began to bloom again. Flowers burst from the ground, trees leafed out, and the world came alive with renewed vitality. But Demeter realized something profound during her months of grief and wandering. She had witnessed humanity's vulnerability and their complete dependence on nature's whims. These people needed more than just the return of wild plants and animals. They needed knowledge, skills, and the ability to ensure their own survival. Demeter made a decision that would change everything. She would teach humans the sacred arts of agriculture. She chose a young prince named Triptolemus from the city of Eleusis, where she had found refuge during her wandering. Triptolemus was kind-hearted and intelligent, exactly the type of person who could spread this knowledge responsibly. Demeter appeared to him in her full divine glory, her golden hair crowned with wheat stalks, her robes shimmering like fields of grain in sunlight. She handed him 3 sacred gifts that would transform human civilization forever. First, she gave him seeds of wheat, barley, and other grains. These weren't ordinary seeds, but divinely blessed ones that would grow abundantly when properly tended. Second, she taught him the plow, showing him how to break the earth and prepare it for planting. Third, and most importantly, she shared the knowledge of the seasons, explaining when to plant, when to tend, and when to harvest. Demeter's lessons were incredibly detailed. She showed Triptolemus how to read the signs of changing seasons, how different soils affected plant growth, and how to store grain to last through winter months. She explained the sacred relationship between humans and the earth, emphasizing that farming wasn't just about taking from the land, but about working in partnership with it. She taught him about crop rotation, showing how different plants could restore nutrients to the soil. She explained the importance of leaving fields fallow, allowing the earth to rest and regenerate. These weren't just practical lessons, but spiritual ones that connected humans to the natural cycles of death and rebirth. Triptolemus became Demeter's first ambassador of agriculture. She gave him a chariot pulled by winged dragons and sent him across the known world to share this knowledge with all humanity. Wherever he traveled, he taught people the arts of farming, transforming nomadic tribes into settled communities. The impact was revolutionary. For the first time in human history, people could control their food supply. They could plant crops in spring, tend them through summer, and harvest enough food to last through winter. This reliability allowed them to stay in one place, build permanent homes, and develop complex societies. Villages grew into cities. With food security came population growth, specialization of labor, and the development of arts, crafts, and learning. Some people could become potters, metalworkers, or priests because others were producing enough food for everyone. Civilization as we know it began with Demeter's gift of agricultural knowledge. But Demeter's teaching came with important spiritual dimensions, too. She established the Eleusinian Mysteries, sacred rituals that honored the cycles of death and rebirth in nature. These ceremonies, held for nearly 2,000 years, taught initiates about the connection between the seasonal death of crops and their resurrection in spring. The mysteries revealed profound truths about life, death, and renewal. Participants learned that just as seeds must die in the earth to produce new life, humans too are part of these eternal cycles. Death wasn't an ending, but a transformation, just like Persephone's annual journey between the worlds of the living and the dead. Demeter's story explains why ancient Greeks saw farming as a sacred act. Every time they planted seeds, they were participating in divine mystery. Every harvest was a celebration of the goddess's continued blessing. Farmers would offer the first fruits of their harvest to Demeter, acknowledging that their success depended on her favor. The goddess also established important agricultural festivals that marked the farming calendar. The Thesmophoria honored her role in fertility and proper cultivation. The Proerosia blessed the plowing and planting. These celebrations reinforced the spiritual aspects of farming and maintained the connection between human communities and divine power. Demeter's influence extended far beyond agriculture itself. Her gift created the foundation for all human progress. Stable food supplies led to population growth, permanent settlements, and complex social structures. The surplus food that farming produced allowed some people to become full-time craftsmen, artists, philosophers, and leaders. Writing systems developed to keep track of agricultural records. Mathematics evolved from the need to measure fields and calculate harvests. Astronomy grew from the necessity of tracking seasonal changes. Engineering advanced to build irrigation systems and storage facilities. Nearly every aspect of civilization can trace its roots back to the agricultural revolution that Demeter initiated. The story also reveals timeless truths about the relationship between humans and nature. Demeter's initial withdrawal of fertility from the earth serves as a warning about what happens when this relationship breaks down. Her eventual gift of agricultural knowledge shows that humans can work in harmony with natural forces, but only when they approach the earth with respect and understanding. Modern agriculture still relies on principles that Demeter first taught. Crop rotation, seasonal planting, soil management, and seed selection remain fundamental practices. Even as technology advances, successful farming still requires understanding of natural cycles, soil health, and plant biology that echo Demeter's original lessons. The environmental challenges we face today make Demeter's wisdom more relevant than ever. Climate change, soil depletion, and loss of biodiversity remind us that human survival still depends on maintaining a healthy relationship with the earth. Like ancient farmers, we must remember that we're partners with nature, not its masters. Demeter's story ultimately teaches us that the greatest gifts often emerge from the deepest struggles. Her personal tragedy led to humanity's greatest advancement. Her grief became the world's blessing. Through her example, we learn that even in our darkest moments, we have the potential to create something beautiful and lasting. The next time you see fields of golden grain swaying in the breeze, remember Demeter's gift. Every loaf of bread, every bowl of cereal, every pasta dinner connects us to this ancient story. We are all beneficiaries of a grieving mother's decision to transform her sorrow into humanity's salvation. Demeter's legacy lives on not just in our fields and gardens, but in our understanding that civilization itself grows from the seeds of wisdom, patience, and respect for the natural world that sustains us all.